everyone. Welcome to the school board meeting for Monday, August the 8th. It is 7:15. Let's please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Dr. Kilmetz, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Overland, Miss Rook,
Here.
Miss Seamus,
Here.
Mr. Goldberg,
Here.
Miss Carmenito,
Here.
Dr. Serini,
Present.
Mrs. Walker,
Present.
Mr. Weiss,
Here.
Miss Turner.
Here. So on the screen, you can see the announcement of our previous and upcoming public meetings. And at this time, we will move on to discussion of our future voting items, beginning with the Board Curriculum Committee report. Ms. Seamus?
Yes, we had a committee meeting this afternoon, and we have potential voting items. I'll go through them. Approval of the 2022-2023 District Health and Safety Plan. Number 2, approval of the emergency instructional time template for the 2022-2023 school year. Approval of reciprocal memorandum of understanding with Grace Valley Fellowship Calvary Bible Church for use and occupancy of facilities for emergency purposes for a term of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2024. Approval of a standard education agreement with Devereaux Advanced Behavioral Health for one special education student for a term July 11, 2022 through August 26, 2022. Approval of a standard education agreement with Devereaux Advanced Behavioral Health for one special education student for a term of July 5th, 2022 through August 18th, 2022. Number 6, approval of an agreement of services with the CCRES to provide educational, instructional support, and other similar services for a term of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Approval of a clinical affiliation agreement with an Emerson College for a term of July 2022 through July 21, 2023. 8, approval of an enrollment contract with Camp Hill Special School for the 2022-2023 school year. Approval of confidential settlement and release agreement with a student 2021-2022 C. Approval of disposal, sale, recycling of textbooks or library books for the Phoenixville Area High School mathematics books, Phoenixville Area High School science textbooks, and approval of the transportation and field trip requests, which are November 17th to 20th, Model UN Princeton, East Brunswick, New Jersey, the high school Model UN club members, grades 9 through 12, February 16th to 19th, 2023, Model UN Georgetown, Washington, D.C., also high school Model UN club members for grades 9th through 12th. February 15th to 20th, 2023, music department trip to Orlando, Florida, the high school music department, grades 9 through 12th, and March 29th to April 11th, 2023, is a Europe trip, which is Italy, Germany, Austria, Croatia, Slovenia, and Hungary, and that would be high school 9 through 12. And that are all the approval items that are there in the open.
All right, any questions for Ms. Seamus? All right, we'll now move on to hear reports from Mr. Goldberg from the Policy Committee.
Thank you. We'll start. There were no PNNs, FYI. We went over 118, which is a kind of parameters of students in their having an independent study for school credit. Policy 312 regarding performance metrics, I guess you could say, for the superintendent as well as the assistant superintendent, on some minor but perhaps substantive changes were made there. 333.1 kind of confirmed a monetary incentive for securing grants or writing grants or requesting grants, securing grants, I guess I should say. 341 is regarding some benefits for regularly employed part-time personnel. No changes were made there. Likewise, for 343, the paid holidays for those employees, no changes were made there. And lastly, policy 810 regarding transportation, buses, distances, walking parameters, et cetera, and no changes were made there. Thank you.
All right, questions for Mr. Goldberg? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to finance and personnel with Mrs. Rook.
Yes, the the personnel report is rather lengthy, as it's usually at this time of year. And we request that this report be approved at this meeting. There are 11 resignations, 1 contracted services. We need to approve professional staff salaries. There are 18 new appointments, long-term sub, 1 unrepresented staff appointment, 1 support staff appointment, several instructional aides, and a whole bunch of extra pay for extra duty folks. There's 1 leave request and a whole lot of volunteers at the various schools, which is really great. 2 FMLA requests, and there are several transfers of instructional aides to new locations and a custodian. And that is the report. Are any questions or comments? Okay.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Rook. Mr. Weiss, the board minutes.
Board minutes were put out there, and are there any comments?
Your mic.
Mike.
I'm Mr. Weiss, not Mike. Sorry. Okay. There are 2 board minutes out there, June 13th and, and the 27th. Are there any comments from the board on corrections or comments to what's there? Okay, seeing none.
Okay, we'll now move on to our board representative reports. Phoenixville Library, Dr. Fagley.
Thank you very much, Madam President. At the last library board, they nominated the new officers. At this time, Ms. Eustace is the president, Ms. Coy is the vice president, Mr. Corey is the secretary, and Ms. Allen is the treasurer. Dr. Allen is the treasurer of the library board. So that was taken care of. The other business they did a lot of work on was looking over employee salary ranges and to try to make sure that they are aligned with, competitive markets and trying to make sure that they're offering a competitive salary. So they are going to be looking at that at several more meetings and making some recommendations, most likely for some pay increases for the library employees. The last thing I'd like to remind everyone is on November 3rd is going to be Wine, Wit, and Wisdom. It's back to being in person. It will be at Rivercrest. I do not know this author, but Jasmine Gularoy is the author. She is a best-selling author of 6 romance novels. So if you're into romance novels, this probably is the place for you to go. You get a novel that will be signed by her. That's the library report.
Okay, questions for Dr. Fagley? All right, Ms. Seamus, the CCIU report?
There's no report. It's just there's a meeting August 17th at 7:30.
Okay. Mr. Overland will give our legislative report at the next meeting. Ms. Carmenito, any update from the Community Education Foundation?
Yes, so PCEF has been busy prepping for the new school year. Their big project that they're prepping and advertising is the Pack a Backpack. This is for any student K through 12 who might be in need of school supplies. So there are flyers circulating. I saw them in some of the principals' updates going out as well. They can just the family can contact the school office or the counselor for a fully stocked backpack. They have recently brought on 3 high school students as interns to help with social media and marketing. PCEF also met with all building principals to discuss potential grant needs. And they're looking forward to the first batch of the teacher mini grants. Those are due September 12th, and all the information for that can be found on the PASD website under staff, and then there's a link for teacher mini grants. That's it.
If someone wants to donate to the Pack a Backpack program, how would they do that?
That is a good question.
They can go online, and there's actually a link right there to donate to the Pack a Backpack program
On the PCEF?
on the PCF website, which you can get to it through our website.
Okay, thank you. Great. All right, Dr. Fegley, superintendent report?
Thank you very much. Excited to announce we're receiving 2 grants, really 3 grants. The first one is Chester County Health Department. That's a $17,000 grant that we're receiving to buy filters, high-level filters that we'll be putting into the building starting in November. So there'll be a replacement and help us with those costs. We're also, as every district, in all honesty, is across the state, we're receiving PCCD grants for safety and mental health. Phoenixville was allotted $165,000 for school safety and $165,000 plus some change for mental health. So we are meeting administratively. We'll be coming back to the board with our recommendations on how we apply these grants as we go forward. We do have to have the application in. They're giving us a really long time by August 30th. So it's a very quick turnaround since they just gave us the announcement last week.
So that means that you have until August 30th to submit a plan on what you want to do with the money?
That is correct.
So will we see that on the 22nd?
You'll see it on the 22nd. Yeah.
Okay, good luck
We're
with that.
working on that. So, but excited that we are seeing some money that will help us continue our efforts. Want to remind the public that for the last 2 years, all breakfasts and lunches have been free for everyone, regardless of income level. The federal government has changed this. This is not a PASD thing. The federal government has changed it, and we're going back to our free and reduced lunch program. So if you believe you are of an income and may qualify for free or reduced lunch, please go to our website. We have all the application materials out there. Please apply right away. If you were free and reduced last year, that is, you had applied for it, not that you just received it, that you had applied for it, you do have a 30-day waiver that we will be able to keep you on the free and reduced lunch. That was just announced last week. However, it is ending. The free and reduced lunch program is ending, so just make that assumption. It is ending. And please go to our website. You'll see all the information of what the income levels are, and it does vary by the number of children or household members. So it's very, very important. If you need any help, please call us here at the office, and we will give you assistance in helping get through the form. Again, it's not our form. It's the form that's put out by the state, and we're happy to help you, but it's very important that you do apply. The other part to remember is it does not just give you free and reduced lunch. It actually makes you eligible for a number of other things, including some medical benefits and other areas. So it is an important thing for people to apply if they qualify for. On the state did finally approve their budget after the June 30th deadline, but it came through. Phoenixville, as other districts did, we did receive additional funds. We received about an increase of about $600,000 in our basic ed subsidy above what we had predicted we would necessarily receive. We also received about $80,800 above in our special education allocation. So we did come up with some additional funds. But what I will also say, what the state giveth, the state does taketh. The state did also pass a law saying that students who were age 21 in special education could go for another year, and they just had to apply for it. We did have one student apply, and that student will take up the cost. We'll take the funds, all the extra funds that we've received. So we do have that one additional student from the Act 55.
Was that the special ed funds or the base funds?
That's special ed funds.
Okay,
Not
just
all,
wanted to
not the
clarify.
base ed. That's a very good clarification. Thank you. So we'll use up all of our special education funds, but at least we have the extra funds that we had not budgeted to help cover that. So we've kind of come up with a zero-sum game on that one.
Has the deadline,
And yes, the deadline is
deadline is passed. We're
Yes.
not having any additional students at this
No
point.
additional
Okay.
students may apply at this time.
Okay.
And again, that was all from the state. With that, Madam President, I'll turn it over to you for the strategic plan and superintendent goals.
Okay, so just a reminder to all the board members, you've received our first pass draft. You guys have 2 more days to get any responses to me, and I'll consolidate those. And then for the public, those will go up on the website. This is the strategic plan for the district and the superintendent goals this is our metric for how we're doing, what's important to us, what are we putting our emphasis on. So those will be up for public review on the website, hopefully by the end of this week, and those will be a roll call voting item for the August 22nd meeting. And just high level, this document, we've made a pretty significant effort to make sure that those two things align. What's in the strategic plan, what are Dr. Fegley's goals, and make sure that they line up. Things in the plan Alan has metrics on, things that Alan has metrics on are also in the plan. So that will be up on the website, hopefully again by the end of the week, and will be a roll call voting item in 2 weeks on the 22nd of August. At this time, the board will take comments on consent agenda items, and I had no one sign up. So we will move on. We are enforcing the sign-up policy at this point, so we're going to move on to the... All right. Mrs. Longo, there is a sign up for the open public comment. You are still welcome to sign up for that one if you wish to. You'll have 3. So moving on our consent agenda. Where are we now?
Ms. Turner, I have a question, if I may. The strategic plan superintendent goals, when will we have a chance to have a discussion about anything
At the
on that?
August 22nd board meeting, that will be a discussion. We'll have a discussion and a roll call vote specifically on that item.
Thank you. And did we properly announce that people would not have a chance? I just feel like if this is the first time we're meeting in here and this is a new procedure that, if people want to
At
speak,
least
they've come.
4
they've
announcements
showed
were
up.
made, and it's published on the agenda. And this is, to be fair, we have to have a policy for public comments that is consistent. We can't say at some meetings, anyone can speak at any time, and at other meetings, we're going to have different people signing in at different times. So just for consistency, this is the way that we're doing it. Anyone can sign up. You need to sign up before the meeting. And this tonight is the listening session for school safety, and that sign-up sheet is still available until we get to that portion of the meeting. I think at this time we are ready for our consent agenda vote. I've kind of lost my place here.
Can you have a motion? You need a motion.
So I need a motion from the board to approve the consent agenda items, which is the personnel report and the secretary's reports with the minutes. Also,
This also includes
this includes the $17,000 grant for the air filters.
correct.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Dr. Kilmetz, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Overland, Ms. Rook,
Yes.
Ms. Seamus,
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Ms. Carmenito,
Yes.
Dr. Serini,
Nay.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Turner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kilmetz. All right, and at this time, we will take comments. Did we have anybody sign up for a roll call? Okay, so our roll call agenda items this evening, there are 2 that are basically the same thing, and these are related to the lease/purchase of computers. And this is for our one-to-one policy for students to have computers. Dr. Fegley, I'm just going to ask you quickly explain again why we have one item on here that's a lease and why we have one item on here that's a purchase? Or, okay? Sure.
So you have two items this evening for consideration. The first, number one, we need to evidence a transaction for the school code. And that would be the purchase, and I'll put that in quotes, of essentially computers that are going to fall then under the financing arrangement through the Dell lease. So action item one fulfills the school code requirement, the procurement requirement to enter into an agreement with CoStars. And then action item two will be the leasing, financing, really, the financing vehicle of the computers in question. And it's really an extension of the master lease from 2020.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about that before we move on?
I just think that's an important point that Mr. Fitzgerald just said, that it's an extension of the 2020 lease/purchase agreement. So this is not a new item. I know I did question this, make sure it was in line with what was said back in 2020, and outside of some inflationary pieces, it's basically the same set of numbers. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a little extra clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. And then item 3 on here is the assessment appeals. These are the properties that meet criteria for the appeals. The school district is filing these. This is what Jeremy talked to us about at the last Finance Committee meeting. So at this time, are we ready for our roll call vote on these items? Can we do this all at once? Or do we have to have a separate roll call vote for each item?
You can do them all at once, or you can do them separately.
You can do it all together.
All right,
Yeah.
we will do them all together then. Let's just do them all together. Go ahead, Dr. Cummins.
So I need a motion in a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, does anyone want to put a motion on the table? Thank you, Ms. Seamus. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. All right, Dr. Cummins.
Ms. Seamus?
Yes.
Mr. Goldberg?
No.
Ms. Carmenito?
Yes.
Dr. Serini?
No.
Ms. Walker?
Aye.
Mr. Weiss?
Aye.
Mr. Overland? Ms. Rook?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes,
Motion passes
the
6-2.
motion carries. Thank you. All right, so at this time, we will take comments on public safety and security. Ms. Walker, can I ask you to grab the sign-in sheet that's back there? And I'm going to call up Dr. Garitano, who will be making our presentation on the current state of our security, kind of where we are. Dr. Garitano?
So before I do, actually, Ms. Walker got the policy one, but before I go, Mrs. Claus is coming up with it. Before we pull it, does anyone else want to speak at the listening session, please? No? Okay, thank you.
So tonight, the points of interest we're going to cover is we're going to cover our recent safety audit, some of our safety planning, overview of our drills, prevention strategies, and then we'll have the listening session for anyone who wants to give a public comment. I will preface this by saying that specific procedures that we use for safety and security in the district are not shared with the public, and that is for security reasons. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for their interest. We know this is a very hot topic given the events at the end of last year. Would like everyone to know that our district complies with all Department of Education regulations and state laws regarding any safety measures. Our emergency planning is reviewed annually by our local police departments and county departments of safe schools and state emergency responders. They currently have our new plan that was just developed, our reviewed plan for this year, and that has been reviewed. I did get confirmation from Safe Schools that the plan was reviewed today. Our mandated drills are conducted and training is provided to staff and students in current best practices for security options. So our school safety audit, we underwent an independent school safety audit in 2021 by an independent security firm. And the goal of that audit was to optimize the things that we had in place and also to look for areas where we could improve across the entire district. So each building was audited. Meetings were held with the building administrators and the security auditors walked around through the buildings and looking at everything that was in place. The audit recommendations were reviewed by the administrative team. Some of those recommendations have already been completed. Most of them are in the implementation phase. So our general security and safety procedures. The district utilizes identification for our parking lots, so all cars on our lots have to have the decal. Visitors are using visitor marked spots. Student and arrival dismissal entrances and exits have been reduced, and those exits and entrances are fully staffed both at arrival and dismissal. All our staff are ID'd, and the ID badge is to be worn. We have signage throughout the district to reduce traffic. Classroom doors are to remain locked in case of an emergent lockdown. Our staff will be trained in updated ALICE procedures. That has already begun. The administrative team was trained in June. Support staff was trained last week. And the updated ALICE procedures, if you're unfamiliar with ALICE, ALICE are procedures that we teach our staff in the event of an armed intruder situation. In terms of what we teach the student, any things taught to the student are grade and age appropriate and trauma informed. Our school safety planning, the district school and safety coordinator, which is me, holds quarterly meetings with the community partners, including law enforcement, Chester County Safe Schools, and our school administrators. We also update the emergency response plan annually, and the district has 2 certified ALICE instructors. In terms of our security drill requirements, our drills follow an incident command structure. You may have heard this on the news recently. It's called the ICS. That incident command structure was developed in conjunction with FEMA and Homeland Security. It is the same command structure that our local police departments and law enforcement use. Our drills are monitored and debriefed with law enforcement. PDE mandates annual emergency security drills, and those drills must be held within the first 90 days of the school year. Currently, we exceed the state requirement, and we hold 2 security drills per year. In terms of building prevention, our infrastructure projects, more than $350,000 over the last 2 years. You may have heard that there is grant money out there through the governor's office and through the state this year. We expect to receive some of that money and have a plan to use that in terms of infrastructure improvements. We have random daily police walkthroughs through the buildings. Our officers in all 3 departments have card access so they can access our buildings. We have daily random exterior door checks. We have unarmed security on the secondary campus, cameras throughout our property, Raptor security screening. If you're unfamiliar with Raptor, that is our visitor screening. So there is a quick check, and then a picture ID is drawn from the driver's license so that the visitor wears an ID in the building. And our exterior entrances are double locked. Training for our staff, trauma-informed care, both 101 and 103. If you're unfamiliar with trauma-informed care, that recognizes and responds to the signs, symptoms, and risks of trauma to better support the health needs of patients who have adverse childhood experiences. You may have heard that as referred to as ACEs. We also have our safety care program for our crisis teams and selected staff. Our selected staff have had multiple sessions, 2 per year. They have to recert if they recert annually, and the full training has to occur every 2 years. We have youth mental health first aid training. For those unfamiliar with that, that is designed to teach school staff and other caring citizens how to help adolescents aged 12 to 18 who are experiencing mental health, addiction, or crisis. In terms of personnel, we have 3 behavioral specialists, 3 lakeside counselors, 12 building counselors, and we are utilizing restorative practice with our students.
Dr. Garatonic, can you just elaborate for the members of the public what the lakeside counselors are?
So lakeside counselors are trained mental health counselors that we contract with. So they are in addition to our building guidance counselors. Additional prevention programs and resources, a focus on belonging and building relationships. I believe that is key. You'll see a lot of the national research now showing how important it is to build relationships with students. information coming to us from students is important. The way you get that information is to have strong relationships with them. So it is routine that you will see our administrators in the hallway meeting, greeting students. One example of this is the middle school house program, where we're breaking the students down into smaller groups. The students within those houses have different sections and different teams that meet with an individual, with a teacher, and that teacher stays with the child for 3 years. In addition, the child has their own guidance counselor and hopefully brings, any concerns to administrators and multiple other people throughout the building. From K through 8, we are using school-wide positive behavior intervention and supports. We are utilizing grief-sensitive schools, and that initiative was through New York Life. The Grief Sensitive School Initiative seeks to better equip teachers to care for grieving students by giving them valuable resources, and our counselors have access to all those resources. And Dr. Kilmetz, if you could bring up the district website so I can talk about Safe to Say and the bullying hotline. So for members of the public, if off our main page you go to parents, the first thing I'll show you is K-12 mental health resources. And you'll see that our mental health resources are there. If you blow that up, you'll see the counseling departments. So for each respective school your child is in, there is a link to those counseling departments with information. And then if you slide down, you will see the reporting safety and bullying concerns button. That is also off the main page, and you can get it under the parents tab. But if you would click that for me. This is where we have the access to how to report any issues of concern. So we have the Stop Bullying Hotline. That is our internal anonymous reporting. Students are informed how to access that, and they can fill out a form that comes to us, and we deal with it the very next day. The next program is the Safe to Say program, and that is the program through the Attorney General's office. This is another anonymous reporting system, and students will talk to a person, a mental health trained professional through the Attorney General's office. Any type of life safety issue is given to our team immediately. If it is after 10 p.m. or on the weekends, then they dial us and call us immediately. We've had a couple of situations over the course of the years where we had to send a life safety check out to a house, and that is always followed up with us after the check is completed. And then if you slide down to number 3, they are our threat assessment teams of how to support students in crisis. And you'll see our team at the bottom, how that's comprised. If you slide down a little more, those teams are building principals, school counselors, the Lakeside counselors involved in those threat assessment teams, teachers, behavior interventionists, and school psychologists, and anyone can reach out to me directly. My email information and direct line is there as well. And Dr. Kilmetz, if you slide to the bottom, for our parents who are unfamiliar with Safe to Say, the student presentation is there, the parent presentation is there, and the general faculty presentation is there for anybody's purview. And that program is from grades 6 through 12. So they are the resources that we have in place. I am going to highlight the bottom. Our strong partnership with law enforcement. We work very closely with all 3 departments, and that is the Borough Department, East Pikeland, and Schuylkill Township. Schuylkill Township and East Pikeland have new chiefs. We've been working very closely with them and working with the new chief of East Pikeland as we bring a building online there in the next couple of years. And we'll start the listening session.
Okay, so before we move to the listening session, any questions from board members for Dr. Gaetano? All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Dr. Gaetano, thanks for putting this together. This is very clearly a rundown of what we're doing, but what it's not is a rundown of what more we could do. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say. A lot of the things more we can do are infrastructure items that we probably wouldn't discuss in public, but we can do more, yes.
I actually have a kind of a hyper-technical question here. When were somewhere in here it says that the entrances and exits were narrowed or reduced, is that right? Somewhere in here said that
Double entries. So
right. When was that?
they were built that way. Barclay has that double entry, which is a little bit different than the other buildings, but if you look at the Schuylkill double entry, you have to enter two entrances before you can get into the building.
Okay.
We're looking the same at Manavon and Pauk. The high school had the new entrance built.
So I'm looking at page 5 of 11. It says student arrival and dismissal entrances and exits have been reduced in number and are fully staffed. That's to say, they've been like that from the outset. It's not something you haven't additionally reduced or anything like that.
We've reduced entry points.
As of when?
I would say right before the pandemic, middle school cut down to one entry point.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is this board comment time? Okay. My comment's more for the board and President Turner. I had requested, a good segue to this is what Dr. Garitano just ended on, strong partnership with local law enforcement. I had requested that law enforcement be invited to the executive session that we held last week, as well as to attend this meeting. And I was met with a response from you, Ms. President, that you reached a consensus on inviting police against inviting them. And I'd like to know which 5 board members voted against inviting local law enforcement. And I just would like to say for the record that I fundamentally disagree with that. They are our partners, and I'd like to hear from them and be able to ask them questions. And I have confidence in everything that Dr. Garitano is stating, but I feel that our community should be able to hear from them and ask them, and they should be involved. And I completely
Okay,
fundamentally
so-
disagree with that decision.
The role of the police is to make sure that they're doing everything they can to keep us all safe. And inviting them to participate in a public political forum could compromise that. We are not going to put our police in a position where they have to make choices that might adversely affect our students or their safety. So if you have specific questions that you want answered, please email them. We will make sure that they get answered, but we are not going to put our police officers up in a situation where they have to defend safety decisions.
And number one, I don't see how a listening session on public school safety is a political forum, nor do I see that our deciding that it's inappropriate for them to be present is our choice. And I fundamentally disagree with your approach to reach a consensus, quote, by asking the first 5 people who said no and then stopping and not asking other board members. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Thank you.
Dr. Serini, what is your purpose of having the police here?
If there are collaborative partners and they are first responders, if you look at the data that I have citations for, I'm looking at the United States Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center report. And if you look at the interactions with law enforcement and the involvement in the community, for example, we had a training last week, an ALICE training. This one citation I have quotes, officers and school staff might benefit from attending training together so that all parties are aware of the point at which local law enforcement should be involved in an investigation. This would also allow officers to get to know administrators, teachers, counselors, facilities. This is just one example of how.
And that, in
when-
fact, is happening, Dr. Serini.
Can I finish, please? Thank you. It's much easier to work through an emergency situation when schools and law enforcement are already familiar with each other. That's just one example, and it's happening in a limited capacity. The fact that we didn't invite law enforcement, we have our community here, and they're an integral part of our community. I'm just stating for the record that I disagree with your approach to allowing the board to explore whether or not they wanted them here, period. That's all I'm saying about it.
But I'd ask you, what would their purpose of being here tonight be?
To be invited as part of our strategic partnership with them.
But what would they be?
Let them decide what they want their role to be. Maybe they just come and listen. Maybe they feel involved. Maybe, the quarterly meetings that Dr. Garitano has, once a quarter, Dr. Garitano, with law enforcement. I also have specific questions that, for example, one of the security measures that you mentioned the other night, only one of the 3 municipalities have access to. and I disagree with the approach.
Okay, Dr. Serini, we're not going to discuss specific.
Well, I'm being asked a question. I'm not saying what the security measure is or was. I mentioned it the other night, so I'm sure Dr. Garitano knows what I'm referring to.
So the
Okay.
quarterly meetings are scheduled meetings. That is in addition to the many times we meet throughout the year. So they are an integral part of our planning and
Understood.
multiple conversations are held with them throughout the year.
I'm answering Mrs. Ruck's question, which is, I have a question about, I want to hear from one of the 3 municipalities as to whether or not they're comfortable with a current practice, which I'm not going to elaborate on, because it jeopardizes the security of our program,
But you wouldn't
potentially.
be able to ask them that anyway in here, because it's a public forum. You could still ask them that.
But that's why I asked them to come to the executive session the other night. And
And
President
again,
Turner
I've
did a
asked you,
straw
if you have
poll.
specific questions that you want to have
How am
answered,
I going to
send
know
them
if
to
I'm
me.
going to have a question until Dr. Garitano is presenting, because I
Send it
didn't
now
have a
and we'll
copy
pass it
of
along. It's not that we don't want you to get the answers that you need. We need to get them in the appropriate forum.
But how is you having a consensus in the dark?
Dr. Serini, this isn't productive. We really are here to listen to members of the public tonight.
I'm answering Mrs. Ruck's question, but
Are you
the public
satisfied,
needs
Mrs.
to know
Ruck?
why there's no members of law enforcement here.
All right,
Period.
we're going
Thank
to move
you.
on to our members of the public listening session. And first up, Mrs. Longo.
So to start out, to answer Mrs. Rook's question, law enforcement should be here to hear the concerns of the public. This is about listening to us, and that's why they should be here. This should be a town hall. This should be an open forum. Am I going to be limited to 3 minutes? Are you going to turn off my mic again? Then this is not a listening session. This is nonsense. It's a show, and it means nothing because it's disrespectful.
Ms. Longo, what's disrespectful is assuming that you deserve more time than anyone else in this room.
No, they all deserve all the time it
gets
takes
3 minutes.
to say their piece.
No,
And
you're
you should be quiet because now it's my turn to talk and your turn to listen.
I will listen for 3 minutes, ma'am.
And then you can leave the room. So to get back to the topic at hand, what is being doing? What are we doing as a district to deal with the behaviors that some experts feel may lead to these kinds of dangerous expectations? I understand hard security, and that's what we're hearing about tonight. But that is not the only part of this we need to think about. So you made a mention of the bully and the safe to say. So a couple of things that I wanted to ask about, and I brought this up before. We can invite mental health services to have offices here so that students can go to their appointments after school. It will help families so they don't need transportation. This would be free to the district except for space because this is billed through insurance. I had purchased myself and donated the Bully Project many years ago. Yes, we have something in place, but the Bully Project, the documentary, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Bullying is part of the problem. It's not the only problem. Dr. Fegley, does the hub still operate? Excellent. So for those board members that don't know, and I hope Dr. Fegley will do a presentation to you, it meets every 3 weeks, or it did, dealing with at-risk students. It was all the stakeholders in the community. I used to attend when I was on the board. It included criminal justice, counseling, the YMCA. And what we did was we looked for ways to divert students we thought might be in danger, students who were fighting, students who were having problems at home. And finally, I just want to mention one of the best ways that we combat student anxiety, depression, and the best way we can help students to be in a better place is to get them outside more. Feed them healthier food. This has been shown to reduce student anxiety, stress, and depression. The only danger to our students is not a school shooting. It is also suicide and eating disorders and other psychological problems. So let's deal with the totality of protecting our students. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Longo. Ms. Bush, did I say that correctly? Boucher.
Shay again from the borough. Okay, so I didn't know this topic was coming up, so I thought I would just drop all kinds of craziness on you guys because I just have been thinking about this for a long time. So I think that there could be some creative solutions in this. The idea that I think there's a couple fundamental problems that go beyond just, it's not Phoenixville. But, you know, I think first of all, Israel provides a good example of, I'll say, citizenry that's armed. Now, in this case, they're all going to training, and they happen to live at home, and they carry their arms with them as they go back and forth. So at any given moment in Israel, you're surrounded with people who are armed, and buses, trains, etc. Just an interesting concept. They're mixed right in with society as they come and go from training. These are like your 18, 19-year-olds, males and females. I think that if anyone's going to think about doing a crime, it's always a good idea to go places where it's a gun-free zone because you pretty much walk right into a situation where you kind of know what you're dealing with. I don't know what the measures are, but I did see something on the board that said unarmed security. I don't know if that was secondary location, so I don't really know. But the police can take a while to get places. We all know that. We saw that in Texas. And it's all difficult to just be relying upon, 911, 911, 911, when maybe, just maybe, there are people who are willing, who are trained, and who are licensed and legal, etc., that maybe would be willing to carry. And I mean, I know that's a whole giant, complex situation, but at least it's worth thinking about. Put some more control inside the building and where it counts, because we all saw what happened when people couldn't get in. And I've often felt that, I know it may sound silly, but if I were in the movie theater when something went wrong, or I was in a school when something went wrong, I'm one of probably several people in this room who would have possibly been able to take care of the situation in a good way that would be protecting other people. So we do have a license in Pennsylvania for a reason. So many are trusted. I don't know. So that's all I just want to say. I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Boucher. Mr. Mraz.
Good evening again. The question I have is about during an emergency. I believe right now if there's an emergency, parents are notified. What about the surrounding residents? We live very close to the buildings and the playing fields. I was told at one meeting years ago that it was up to the township or the police department or the county to notify us. But if something immediately happens at the Early Learning Center or Manavon or the high school, we're within a couple hundred yards, like most residents. So I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, what is the notification process? Is it going to be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Has it ever been tested? Heaven forbid if something does occur, but if it hasn't been tested, you hear the Limerick sirens go off once a month. How do we know your procedures for notifying parents or whatever, or the residents in the surrounding areas? I know Berkeley is surrounded with lots of houses. Why shouldn't those people be notified immediately also? And I know if we see something, we're supposed to call 911, and that's what we would do, especially when I see people playing on the fields during the daytime or weekends. So that's my question for the report here. How is the notification to be done for, again, with the parents of children? We know that has to happen. But what about the residents? We have a very big stake in this. We, the taxpayers, should be notified almost immediately, just like anything else. I'm seeing some people saying yes or no. Maybe that hasn't been brought up. But remember, we're the taxpayers. We have children. Some of us have children still at the school, so forth. But let's hear what you have to say about that. Thank you.
Mr. Rose, may I just ask you quickly, are you saying that you would like to have some kind of, like a siren or an emergency sound, an email alert? What are you?
I don't think that. I think it would be by cell phone, most likely. I think Dr. Fagley would notify someone, push a button, because, you know, if you're notifying parents, you have maybe one button that you notify everybody with, probably. I don't know. Maybe that's security issues. But if you have our phone numbers, and I brought this up years ago, and I think someone, either Dr. Fagley or somebody, told me it's up to the township to notify us. But if it has to go through Chester County emergency people, it's going to go from the school district to Chester County to the Phoenixville, maybe us. It's going to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. By that time, you know what happens. So if the parents are notified immediately, surrounding residents should be notified almost immediately also. Something to be discussed. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mraz. Mr. Smith.
Hi, I'm Steve Smith. I'm a parent and a teacher, but in another district. Oops, sorry, in another district, not here, but I like it here. Just some things coming up from my two perspectives is that if classroom, I know you probably can't answer this, but if classrooms don't already have an inside lock, to please consider that. I know in the presentation you said the doors would be locked all the time. If they can be locked, they can be unlocked too, and someone may forget it. Just from my experience, it's a lot easier and quicker to lock it from the inside than to go through the procedure of locking it any other way. And time is of the essence if there's an intruder. The other thing is, I know it talked about security while school's in session. I would consider, or like you to consider, maybe when school is not in session at certain events. I'm thinking of some of the dances, like the homecoming dance in particular. It's my understanding that students, once they come in, are allowed to exit out and re-enter as they see fit. That creates a lot of problems of kids being unaccountable and people who you may not want to enter. So I know many other districts have a policy where once the kids are in, they're in, and no one leaves until mom comes to get you.
So I can confirm that that is our policy. Once you're in, you're in. You can't come and go as you please.
It wasn't enforced last year.
So if it wasn't, let me know. Let's have a conversation.
Okay.
We need to know that.
And my last thing is, my last thing is, I know in the high school at lunch, sometimes the kids are allowed to go outside and sometimes into the parking lot, which is totally fine. But you may, I don't know what kind of security measures there are for once the kids re-enter. I know that there are entry points at the front of the school and people can't enter besides that, but this is creating another entry point on a parking lot where traffic can come in and out that someone who doesn't belong may be able to enter. And those are the points that just came to mind, so that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Juen, I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly. Danielle Juen? Okay.
Great. First, thank you very much for holding this session. We really do appreciate it. I have two children who are in the schools, one in Schuylkill Elementary and one in the middle school. As a parent, there's obviously very little that you can do to protect your kids in the schools. And after every one of these incidents, I have found myself scrolling through the internet trying to figure out what I could do to protect them. I have considered buying backpack inserts so many times, and each time shook myself, thinking that, man, I'm crazy, right? This past shooting that happened in Texas, I finally decided this is the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to purchase a backpack insert for my kids. I'm going to make sure it's rated for rifles, assault rifles. And even as I was contemplating this, I thought how insane the world has become. But it's a modicum of safety. It's like carrying a lucky rabbit foot. It makes you feel better as a parent that you're doing something. On Monday, I received a letter from Phoenixville Middle School stating that they were no longer going to permit kids to carry their backpacks from class to class. It's part of a new measure, I think, to encourage use of the lockers. I'm sure that nobody thought of it in light of school safety, but as a parent, as having this one thing that I thought, oh, I could do this at least, I felt like I was punched in the gut and all the wind came out of me. I just want to bring that to your attention because I think that, again, just as parents, we feel so helpless in making sure that our kids are safe at school. I can't tell you how many times I've put them on the bus and held my breath until they got home. So I hope you will consider my comments in thinking of that policy and perhaps rethinking it. Again, I don't think that it was taken with school safety in mind.
Dr. Fegley, do you want to address that?
I'll be happy to address it at the next
At the
board
next
meeting
meeting.
after I have a conversation.
Kind of get some
Yeah.
information.
Thank
All right, thank you for bringing that to my attention. That is something, honestly, I didn't know anything about. All right, that is the full list of people who had signed up to speak for our listening session. I'm just going to make one more pass. Is there anyone else here who would like to make a statement regarding school safety?
Sir, before you start, we're going to have you sign in. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Paul Salantano from, I live in Phoenixville here. Come from the safety and security racket. I've commissioned several systems throughout the district throughout many years. And one of the first things I would do before I'd go out to commission a system is I would walk the building. I wanted to get familiar with it. The drawings are great. I got great drawings. The drawings are never right, by the way. But there's nothing better than walking through the building and just getting a feel for the building, meeting the principal, saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to tear your building apart today and probably ring bells and you're not going to like it. And so what does that have to do with what we discussed this evening is you had mentioned, or people had mentioned, inviting the police for these meetings. And in my world, we have kickoff meetings. And unfortunately, in my world, we don't always follow the policy of having a kickoff meeting. And nowadays, I'm just a drafter. I draw what I used to install. And what I'd like nothing better is to have a kickoff meeting so I can get familiar with the project. Once again, like I used to do, I'd walk the building, get familiar with the project. And knowledge is power. And I think inviting them to any meetings that they can attend, and by their choice, they may also find to be beneficial in that it will get them familiar with the project. If you go into some place and you have no clue what's going on or how the hallways work or anything, or what the policies are, that person will be unprepared for things that they may have to make decisions about in the crisis. So I, for one, I'd recommend inviting them. If they show, fine. If they don't, oh well. And, knowledge is power. That's all.
All right, thank you. Okay, so at this time, we're going to move on. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Please continue. So if there's more, I'm going to take the sign-up sheet. Go ahead and make your comment. I'm going to pass something back.
Should I fill it out real quick?
Thank you.
Just a quick question or suggestion. I'm a parent in middle school, high school, Schuylkill Township. I'm also a teacher, so I live in a school good part of the year, and obviously have different insights. And I do have a lot of questions around not just what it looks like in an audit for, I'm not sure how many hours they were in the building, but consistency across the year. And I wonder if it's possible to have some type of middle school meeting where I love the roundtable you did around the sale of the kindergarten center. Maybe something like that again, where middle school parents could share what they're seeing with the school board, and just have conversations around that. Put heads together. Maybe one for the high school too, and the individual elementary schools. So thank you.
Excuse me, what was your name?
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Deb Sully. How are you? I'm a Schuylkill Township resident, and this is like totally impulsive to come up here because I don't have a plan or anything. I just want to, and this might be a really crazy idea, but I was thinking one night about school safety, and I thought, why don't they just have like some kind of a panic button for the teacher? And you have sprinklers that just, when you have an intruder, you just hit the panic button and the water comes down. The kids know to lay down on the floor. It gives, there's more time, you have time. Or some kind of smoke in the room. I mean, is there any kind of thing you can do like that to divert and avert an intruder? Did anybody ever think about that? I'm sure they have, right?
I'll just comment that we have
Yes.
specific procedures that we can't discuss in public.
Oh, so you might be already doing it. So I'm actually brilliant, right? I'm not crazy, I'm brilliant, right?
Let's go with that.
I think panic buttons would be a great, just to get, I mean, the guy has a gun and you put water all in his face and it's a big rainstorm, he can't really shoot anybody, right?
Thank you, Ms. Sully. All right, so at this time, we're going to move on with our agenda. I have a retirement resolution.
Ms. Turner. Now what?
We are going to take these comments, see what we can respond to, and have that on the agenda for the 22nd.
I don't mean in terms of response to the public's questions, which I'm very interested in, but I mean, we just got a report, very ably done, by the way, by Dr. Garitano, that tells us what we're doing. As far as I'm concerned, that's only the beginning of the conversation. What are we going to do to beef things up, to make things stronger? That's what we need to be talking about. And if it's not on, I see that it's not on this agenda, but we need to put it on an agenda quick. We have school starting pretty soon. I hope I'm not the only board member that thinks that we need to strengthen the school somehow. Am I?
But we can't beef these things up, talking about beefing these things up in public. You can't let the bad guy know what we're going to do.
I don't mean, of course, I understand that. I don't mean actual, like, specific protocols. But we can have conversations such as, for example, when's the last time, Dr. Fegley, we had cops assigned to the school? Middle school and high school.
So if you're talking about an school resource officer.
Of any color.
It was 2009.
Okay. Was the last time we had armed law enforcement personnel.
Right.
2009.
Okay.
Now, you do have the armed personnel going through when they do their visits. When police officers visit us.
Sure, random
Visits, yes.
So theoretically, what would it take to get resource officers or other armed police officers assigned to the school? I'm not asking for that tonight. I'm saying these are questions that we should.
Town hall, we should have a town hall.
I'm not asking for a town hall. I'm
asking for a town hall. We need to continue the conversation.
Well, you'll get your turn in a second. I'm just saying at this point, what I'm asking for is I want this conversation to not be over with this. I want to begin a conversation about reducing perhaps entrance and exits to one entrance and exit. Or to have other armed personnel possibly in the school. Now, I'm not saying these are things I necessarily want. These are things I want to have a discussion about. Because this should not be the end. This should be the beginning.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned. So I don't want to make more work for you, Dr. Garitano, necessarily, or you, Dr. Fegley, but we can't stop this conversation now.
So we will have this as a discussion item and get responses as appropriate to the comments today on the 22nd. If necessary, we can have another executive session to talk about, for example, the extra $165,000 that we're getting, kind of what's that going towards, some of those kind of things. And if we need to have further discussion about policy changes, like a school resource officer or metal detectors or anything else of that nature, we can certainly do it. But we can start on the 22nd.
That's what I'm asking.
And I have those costs available for you.
Costs? Okay, I'd be interested in the cost, to be honestly. I'll be interested in the cost, but to be honest, I'm not interested in the cost. Because I don't know what else, I'm interested in cost with everything else, but when we're talking about safety, I don't care about the cost, frankly.
There's cost, there's availability, there's all kinds of things.
There's all kinds of stuff, but we need to get stuff done. So I am interested in the cost, but only slightly. Thank you, Dr. Garitano.
How do we continue this conversation in a objective-oriented way that has outcomes? Putting it on the agenda, or can we discuss specifically school resource officers, SROs? as an agenda item. That's something specifically I would like to see.
So absolutely.
Can we invite a school resource officer? Can we invite people, somebody who has that background? How do we properly explore that?
Understand that police departments are having the same personnel issues that the world is having, right? So an SRO may not be a possibility to us from a local police department, however, private security would be available to us. So it wouldn't take the form of an SRO, it would be a private armed security guard.
But until we have these conversations and until we put a job posting out there, where there could be somebody graduating from Municipal Police Training Academy right now.
SROs report to the local police department, not to the
Right,
school
so
district.
I understand that, but if they don't have a current staff, maybe there's somebody who's available, and that shouldn't prevent us from exploring that topic.
Okay.
We have to educate students, so because there's a teacher shortage, are we not going to put a job posting out there? I mean, these are needs that we have that are dynamic and changing, but to explore it effectively is what I'm concerned with.
Dr. Garitano, can I ask, or Dr. Fegley, can I ask for one more request? As long as you're finding out what things cost, can we find out what it costs to have a certified an Act 120 certified security guard in the?
We can.
We have it, yep.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Goldberg?
No, thank you.
Okay, from any other board members? So again, go ahead.
Would it make sense to have an executive session on this, not the day of the 22nd, but sometime between now and then, to cover some of these things? Because some of those conversations and ferreting out whether the board is interested in going one way or the other may be sensitive into the decision-making process for that. So, I think putting it on the agenda for a public meeting to respond to these comments, definitely, but to dig into what Mr. Goldberg and what Dr. Serini is thinking about, we may need an interim session for that, and I don't think an executive session a half hour before we have this meeting cuts it. I think we need a separate slice of time.
So we can discuss on the 22nd whether or not we think a school resource officer is a good idea. How much does a school resource officer cost? How much does an armed security guard cost? Those are discussions we need to have in public. If things come up at that meeting that are specific and procedural and related to safety that we can't discuss in public, we can certainly schedule another executive session.
Okay.
But I think that I agree with what Mr. Weiss is suggesting, and because time is of the essence and school is beginning a week after we meet on the 22nd, would it hurt to try to schedule something before then? And to discuss maybe an SRO, school resource officer, is just one suggestion, but maybe there's other protocols that we should discuss, that we need to discuss in private, and as Mr. Weiss stated, a half hour before is not sufficient. By the way, do we also want to include law enforcement representatives in that executive session?
So are you requesting that between now and the next meeting that we have another executive session on
If Mr.
school
Weiss
safety?
was just making a motion for an executive session, then yes, consider that a second. Or I'll make a motion and hopefully Mr. Weiss will second it.
Okay,
And we can further.
Mr. Weiss, are you making that motion?
I don't think you need a motion. You're the president. You can schedule an executive session.
All right, I'm going to do just a straw poll, thumbs up, thumbs down, on who would like to have another executive session between now and the 22nd.
Keeping in mind that we did have an executive session before where we got all this information.
Not the information that I'm asking for.
You weren't there.
But that doesn't matter. I was
on
there and
vacation,
I have the same
But I was on
question.
vacation. I got updates, and what I'm asking for was not part.
It wasn't
brought up.
part of that.
And I was there and I have ongoing
So,
questions.
so Aisha, you would like to, Dave, do you want to have another executive session between now and the 22nd?
I mean, I'm constrained to say yes. I think this is about as important as you
Michelle?
can
Caitlin? No. Betsy? Jerry?
Yeah.
Victoria?
To be clear, there are a lot of things we can't discuss during an executive session.
That's correct.
We would not be able to deliberate
But
about
But personnel matters, and additional people in the building is a personnel matter.
You'll be able to talk about all the reasons why you would want to have some. So, for instance, if there are vulnerabilities here or issues there or lag time to when the police can get to a certain, all that stuff can be done in exec session. But then the isolated personnel issue of, oh, do we want to hire, do we want to do a school resource officer? Do we want to arm security guard, our own police department? That would be done publicly. So the substance of what would justify something can be done indoors, but the actual personnel would have to be done out here.
It's not for me to answer yet. Well, let me see what the board wishes, and we have to follow the board wish.
All right, how about this? Any board member who would like to sit down with administration, Dr. Garitano, and how about if we just schedule a meeting to further the conversation? If other board members are not interested, and some are, I think that school safety, and as we approach the school year beginning, getting some of these.
I definitely agree that we need to have more dialogue about this topic, because I think it's much more complex than, what we're talking about now. There are a lot of different factors that play into school safety. It's not just, making sure, our students are safe. Yes, that's the top priority. But then you're talking about other things that come into play too that we need to consider that affect our students. So, I am in agreement that we definitely need to have more dialogue about the matter. Now, what forum that takes place in, I have no idea.
Okay, so that was a no on another executive session between now and the 22nd. All right, so majority is going to say no to an additional executive session in the next 2 weeks. We could certainly have one again in future if we need to, but we will have the discussion in public on the 22nd where we can discuss, do we think it's a good idea? What are our reasons? What are the costs? Those kinds of things. Okay?
Yep.
So at this time, I do have a retirement resolution, which I was supposed to read earlier, and my apologies to Mr. Winnick, but I'm going to do that now. Whereas Mr. Stephen Winnick has served in the field of education for 24 years as a teacher and dedicated professional staff member of the Phoenixville School District, and whereas Mr. Winnick has tendered his resignation from the employ of the district for the purpose of retirement effective July 1, 2022, and whereas the Board of School Directors of the Phoenixville Area School District wishes to recognize him for his valued service and officially record its appreciation, be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Directors of the Phoenixville Area School District observes with regret the resignation of Mr. Stephen Winnick from its professional staff and expresses its deep appreciation for the qualities of inspiration and dedication which have been so characteristic of his approach with our children. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be recorded in the minutes of the School Board Directors meeting of the Phoenixville Area School District held on August the 8th, 2022, and a copy of this resolution be presented to Mr. Stephen Winnick. And thank you so much for your service. All right. Did we have any signups for open public comment? Yes, no?
There were some, yes. Is it there? Is it still over there, Ms. Longo?
Thank you, Mrs. Longo. All right, Mrs. Longo, you are up again. Thank you. So this is open public comment on any school subject, and you are welcome for your 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. As a follow-up to this conversation, I just remember when I was on the board, we had a conversation about having police officers in schools. When you have a police officer on your grounds and there's an altercation, what they can do is arrest a student. So we talk about that student to prison pipeline. That is the problem. Having a non-police officer who's armed means they may not have the same training. So I see these as bad and worse. So when you're having these conversations, I want you to please keep those two things in mind. Also keep in mind, we're not the only gun-free zone. So why do these things seem to happen at schools? I have a theory These are psychopaths and sociopaths who are picking on children who are too small to fight back. They're cowards. They come to schools for a reason. They could just as easily go to a movie theater or a mall. Why don't they go to colleges? Kids are walking around all over. So I don't think guns and security is where we need to go. Uvalde had 17 armed and trained police officers standing in the hallway, too afraid to enter against an AR-15, an expanded magazine, and body armor. Those are the problems. Deal with that at Congress. Get those off the street. Police agree with that. The military agrees with that. So please just keep that in mind. I want to go back to why I wanted to come up earlier on the consent agenda and I wasn't allowed. I had a question. We had talked about grants and that people could get a commission for writing a grant. So this was a $17,000 grant. I'm just wondering, was a commission paid on that grant? And did any of you ask that question before you approved the grant? Do you know the details of what you're voting on? That question should have been asked before the vote. Have any commissions been paid to administrators as opposed to teachers? The intent of that policy was to help teachers get grants in classrooms. So you guys should be asking for a report. Has anybody gotten paid, and if so, how much and for what? Just going back to the start time conversation, I know this came up, and I hope this video still exists somewhere. As you're thinking about whether or not our start time is appropriate, we invited Dr. Wendy Troxel, one of the leading experts on sleep, students, and start time. That was a YouTube video, I believe at one time. I hope it still exists. Please watch it. We should be going to 8:30. That is what the CDC recommends. That is what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. Children need sleep. Thank you.
Mr. Mraz.
John Mraz, Township. In a recent walk I did around the Early Learning Center and the Manavon playing fields, I noticed there were about 10 to 15 rolls of artificial turf. I don't recollect hearing about any additional turf being installed over there other than what's on Washington Field. So my question to the board here is there any cost involved, and what's going to be either replaced or whatever's going to happen over to those fields? Secondly, with the announcement of a $600,000 additional funding to the school district that you mentioned earlier, how is that money going to be accounted for? I know it's too late for the 22-23 budget, but how is that going to be accounted for and what it's going to be used for? Finally, on the public comments. With the last session, it was thought that we would not be able to sign up after the sign-in forms was put to the president of the board. Well, we just saw that there was 3 additional people who were allowed to speak. I applaud the president of the board for doing that because I think that's the correct way of doing things. If people come in late, why not have the chance for those people to speak up? Yes, we're in a small room this time. Sign-up sheets were over there. People who are not here, who haven't been around and haven't been in this room, did not realize there's a sign-up sheet. So I do appreciate that Ms. Turner did allow those 3 people to speak, but I think that should be what should be done in the future. Don't be so concrete to say, look, if you don't sign up, you can't speak. Please. This is our facilities. These are our children here. We're the taxpayers. You were elected to do what we thought you should be doing. Do your job and let the people speak and hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mraz. All right, that is the last item on our agenda for this evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And again, school safety will be on the discussion.
I did want to clarify in terms of school shootings. I know it's a very emotionally charged topic, but so we know this problem since 1999. We have 2 elementary schools, 5 colleges, 6 high schools, and 1 schoolhouse. So it's across the board. We want to be careful of referring to people as in any negative way as to prompt any type body to do something against a school. But in terms of our school shootings and mass casualty events, 4 or more, 2 elementary, 5 college, 6 high school, 1 schoolhouse.
And that is from that report that you showed us in the executive session, correct?
That is from the Secret Service report, yes.
All right. Thank you for that clarification, Dr. Garitano. All right, with that, I am going to adjourn this evening's meeting. It is 8:34. Thank you.